Hello and welcome to Paradigm Playbook, a podcast for entrepreneurs in the business of sports. Your hosts, Dave Kozak and Steve Cook, are business owners, successful entrepreneurs, sports enthusiasts, avid readers, and longtime friends. For years, they've read every business book on the market and built successful companies with what they've learned. This podcast will give you the critical takeaways in just 15 minutes a week. It's a quick and easy playbook for building a winning sports business. And now, here are your hosts, Dave and Steve.
Are you ready to learn and discover new ideas? We want to hear from you. Share your questions, thoughts, and ideas for the Paradigm Playbook podcast. We value your input and want to create episodes that match your interests. Leave a comment or send us an email at playbook@paradigmplaybook.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Paradigm Playbooks podcast. I'm your host, Dave Kozak, alongside my co-host, Mr. Steve Cook.
Morning, David.
Sir, as always, we got our color man in the back, Mr. Niall Cummins.
Wonderful to be here on this Wednesday morning.
All right. So today I thought we'd take a little different approach. I start every day in some capacity or another with thought conditioners or, motivational things, something to kind of set my mind right. Steve, I don't know if you do the same. I got a pretty decent routine 3 days a week. I'm up at 6 a.m. I work out for an hour and a half, get the kids ready after that. We're sort of waking them up as we're doing it. And then I usually go into, trying to figure out what my schedule is for that day. I've previewed it at the beginning of the week, and I usually preview it the night before, but then I'm digging into, okay, what gears am I going to have to shift into as I go through my day? Because I hit such a wide variety of things. And so in the thought conditioners, I came across a video, and it was, I forget the lady's name, but it was the idea of kind of entrepreneurial overwhelm that exists because there's like 1,000 things to do, and you're constantly met with decision points. And in this video, she goes to say how you approach that is sort of the outcome that it'll generate. And she dug in specifically to decision making. And a lot of times what happens in the decision making process is you may be presented with 5, 10, 15 options, right?
Okay.
And people spend a lot of time trying to make the right decision. And I think in an effort to make the right decision, we often have to procrastinate, delay the decision, evaluate, and then we get into that analysis paralysis that we've discussed before. And so rather what her frame was, excuse me, and we'll talk about frame control, but her frame was there's not 15 decisions and one of them is good. There are 13 good decisions or 15 good decisions, and you have to pick the one that you're going to commit to, you're going to focus on, and you're going to see through to the end, as opposed to this idea that you get overwhelmed and you're looking for that one golden idea or that one decision that's the right decision. Thoughts on that, Steve?
Well, let me go back to the beginning. And so I'm with you. I have a morning routine that I'm pretty disciplined. I get up at 4:30 every morning. I've done that. My theory behind it is my Head Start theory, which we've discussed that everybody else is getting up at 6. I'm not good enough, so I need a head start. So whether it's running a race or competing in something, I like the head start.
Right. And
so I do that. I look for words of wisdom as well. I have a few mentors that I go and I have a 2-minute Darren Daily that I listen to every day, and it's repetitive, but you get into that routine. And I think the routine is important. And I've heard said, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So however you're going to make that decision is how you're going to make all your decisions. So you have to, you create a habit of the how you decide. So if you're picking between 15, and I don't know whether you're talking choices or decisions. So if you're talking 15 decisions, then it could be 100 choices.
Correct.
So where you go with that, I think, is predetermined, and you can't wait till that moment to decide, okay, because then depending on your frame of mind, your state of well-being, your tiredness or whatever,
in that moment,
anything that's going to, so there's an inclination to go to the easiest decision.
Yeah.
And that's probably exactly wrong. It's probably the exact backwards of what you have to do. So your decisions are basically, in an entrepreneurial world, how you're going to survive is by deciding to do the things that nobody else wants to do. So that's going to be what sets you apart. So I don't know if that's where you're going with this, but that's kind of my first thought on it.
I think it was just an idea of a different perspective, because in the end, and obviously we're focused on entrepreneurs, and you're going to be faced as an entrepreneur with a lot of decisions, right? And the decision to get up at 4 a.m. or not, right? The decision to give yourself the head start or not, the decision to do the exercise routine that you put in place or not, decision to eat a good breakfast or eat a good lunch or skip a meal or those are simple decisions that you hope to become habit, right? In some cases, you're looking at the future of the company, and you could go this direction or that direction or this direction, or you could create this service offering, you do that. And I think what I took from this little clip that I was watching was the idea that the decision you make, I really don't care what it is, because hopefully as an entrepreneur, you've thought through it. You've used your brain power and your entrepreneurial spirit to make the determination, this is the direction I want to go. I think what I took from it was, if you make the decision, follow through, use the discipline, follow through until you see it to the end. I see a lot of people, they start something and they let it go, or they begin something. I'm a victim of it. I have a Instagram reel that is Dave Kozak, CEO, right? And I was just daily, I was going through and sharing with people the thought conditioners and the stuff that I use in treating, and I just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And I had people that were like, yo, where'd you go? And so you do that. The follow through is that important part, which is what I really wanted to talk about in this podcast, was entrepreneurial discipline.
I think, we talked a little bit ago about the Ryan Holiday's book, Destiny is Discipline, and
which is one I have not read, by the way.
Okay, you will after this.
I will, certainly.
The first chapter is about Lou Gehrig, so and you will love it. So I think the tough decisions are the ones that you make and then you eliminate it as a decision. My alarm doesn't go off and I have to decide whether to get up. I don't have to decide because I get up at 4:30. So that's not a decision for me.
Ooh.
How hard you...
Someday I'll get there, Steve.
Okay. You know what? And maybe that's not it for you, but making your to-do list for the week on a Sunday night, that may be your thing, and that's not a decision for you. Now, that one I could do better at.
Yeah.
So, but we all have those decisions, and the discipline comes in when you eliminate having to make that decision. So the greatest thing, and I'll give you insight into the Lou Gehrig chapter, is, and for those that don't know Lou Gehrig, until who broke his record? Baltimore. The consecutive games played.
Oh, Cal Ripken Jr.
Cal Ripken broke his record. But anyway, he held the record, consecutive games played. But it was his decision that he didn't miss games. Now, during that time, and it spanned, it spanned years and years. And during that time, it's recorded in there that he had 7 broken bones, but never missed a game. So, that's some kind of weird discipline that is unbelievable. Some people don't have to have discipline to not eat candy. I'm not there. So, but I think as an entrepreneur, if you can set certain disciplines and they're your can't misses, then you're going to be better. And maybe yours is looking at your financials on a weekly basis, or understanding your numbers, or doing your numbers, or a check-in with your sales team, or whatever those things are that you can't miss, then you make those disciplines, and it's going to make you better.
Yeah, there was another interesting quote that I read. And again, I'm very bad at citing where I read these things, but I know when they make an impact. This one was, that thing that you're avoiding is that thing that's going to make you successful.
Yeah.
So that you're not doing the books on a weekly basis. You're not reviewing the numbers or statistics, right? That's the thing that is going to propel you to the next level or motivate you to the next level. So entrepreneurial discipline is very, very roller coaster ride from my perspective, because and there's this other concept that, discipline kicks in where motivation wanes. And so your motivation is very easy. When you're motivated, you'll do what it takes. But what happens when the motivation runs low? That's where the discipline has to take over, and you have to do the things you don't want to do. And again, just as a quote, this one came from Mike Tyson, and I never knew him to be a great thinker, but man, this quote really hit home. It said, "Discipline is doing things you hate as though you love them."
Yeah.
Right. And so in business, we all have, and listen, we can talk about elevate and delegate, and we can talk about all that, but sometimes you don't have the option to delegate, right? There is just, if you're a one-man shop starting up whatever the company is in any industry, there are things that everybody avoids. And that's where you have to be disciplined as an entrepreneur, not to avoid them.
So is it more about selecting where you're going to be disciplined? And I think, is it really discipline if you're disciplined in things that are easy? Or does it have to be a difficult choice to count as discipline?
Well, I think that's subjective, right? And what I would say is discipline exists when there is not an option in your brain to do something else, right? When you eliminate the option.
Yeah, and I think the key thing that you said is in your brain.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So what's in my brain is like, I have to get up, that's not in your brain. It's not the same thing. But then there's other things that are in your brain that I say, I wish I could do that. But so then to make it,
I think it's something you have to not want to do. Discipline would have to be something I'm not.
You're creating, and it's like Mike Tyson says, it's, that's what's going to make you great or better. And, we talked about in Atomic Habits that, to form a habit is you have to, one, recognize it. Two, then you have to kind of envy it, wish you had it. Then you have to try it, and then you have to capture it. And what's interesting about, and that's kind of how I got off on this early morning thing is, I saw somebody else doing it, and I just kind of envied it. I said, I'd be cool if I could do that. And I'll give you another example in a minute, but I went there, and now it becomes a habit. And what's weird about habits or discipline, it becomes your identity at some point. Mm. And I was introduced at a recent conference where I was just speaking as the guy that will beat you to the gym in the hotel every morning. And that's how they recognize me, as like, if you're going to the gym tomorrow morning, guarantee you Cook's going to be there before you. Huh. And so that was my identity because of a habit that I created through discipline.
It's interesting too, because, there was this, I don't know who said it. I don't know where it came from, but I think it's Bubkiss. Which is, to create a habit, you have to do something for 21 days, right? Do something for 30 days. Not for this guy. The habit creation is in my brain, not in the repetitive nature of doing something. So I'll give you the example. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I have a workout that starts at 6:30 with a trainer. Every Monday and Wednesday and Friday, I got to drag myself out of bed at 6 a.m. I have to do it. It is not something. Now, I'm jumping up a lot faster than I used to. I'm excited because of the progress I've made in physical fitness. I'm excited to do it because it's made me feel better about it. But that your brain controls the willingness to allow it to become a habit, right? It just does. And maybe I'm wired different.
No, but let me clear something up. When I say I get up at 4:30 every morning, I don't, jump up and skip to the kitchen. That's not. Some days I roll over and fall to my hands and knees on the floor and crawl out of the room. What I'm saying is that I have the discipline that is not a decision. I don't care, how hard it is. I'm getting up. I mean, so I don't think discipline should, insinuate that it's easy.
No, without question.
Yeah.
What I'm saying,
it is all in your brain. I think you're right there.
Yeah, there was, and this started back in my cold calling sales days, where you're slamming the phone, and the discipline, do it for 21 days and it's a piece of cake. That is garbage. It isn't. Every time you start a new phone block and you're about to cold call somebody, that is a moment of discipline, because there is no habit associated with it. Now, when I'm on the phone, then the habits happen. Then the words come out and the speech happens and all that stuff. But that is, I do not agree with the do anything for 21 days and it becomes a habit.
Yeah, and I've heard it at 21 days and 30 days and 2 months and 6 weeks. And, you hear that it's whatever it takes to get to the point where you believe in it and that you want that. So one habit that came to me early, and I think you and I kind of discovered this at the same time or close to about, and that's relentless solution focus. And that's RSF. And the theory behind RSF made so much sense to me that I was able to adopt it. And to this day, I go there every time I have a problem. It's, RSF, I've got a minute to come up with a solution.
Yeah.
And the solution doesn't have to work. It doesn't have to be right. But I've got a minute.
In the right direction.
I have a minute to do it. And I think that's a great one for an entrepreneur.
Do you want your business to thrive? Visit us at paradigmplaybook.com and contact us today for expert assistance.
Well, and for me, I took it from a minute to 30 seconds because that which you focus on expands, which is out of Dr. Jason Selk's book, Relentless Solution Focus. If you focus on the problem, and in my brain, okay, here it is. It's been presented. It is real. It is now history. There's nothing I can do about the problem. Now I have to focus on what I can do, which is the solution. And so I'll be sitting in a conference room with 20 people around, and they'll be laying out a problem and this problem and that problem. And I'm like, nope, not a problem. Nope, not a problem. Here we go. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go here, here, here. And it's that idea that it's all a choice, right? So a problem presents itself. You have two choices: let the problem fester or figure out how to solve it. And so why would you ever let it fester?
Well, I think the reason we do is because, as Jason says, we're hardwired to dwell in that negativity. And there's some comfort in complaining because you're looking for companionship in the complaint. So you go into a meeting room and you're sitting around and all the salespeople are telling you the same thing. Yeah, it's terrible calling on that account. Nobody likes this. Can't sell this program. So you can have all that, and then it shut up. How do you solve that? How do you sell that product? How do you call on that customer? And you have to get there, and that becomes fun.
Yeah, and I will say that is one habit, and I don't know if it's a habit or if it's a discipline or whatever, but I can't look at problem. They'll present and people will get so frustrated, and I just it doesn't even get a rise out of me. I'm like, all right, well, here we go. This is next. On to the next, right? And it's interesting because there's a movie, and I don't know if you've seen it, Steve, but it's called What About Bob? And What About Bob is an old movie about Bob's schizophrenic, and the book that's written that's to help Bob is called Baby Steps. And the concept of baby steps is you can control.
Is this like a Dan Aykroyd movie or something?
No, Bill Murray.
Bill Murray. I was
Dr. Leo Marvin. I'm sailing and he's tied to the front of the boat. It's great. It's a great movie if you've never seen
Bob?
it.
Okay.
Is it Kenny Bunkport? No. Lake Winnipesaukee is where they're vacation. But anyway, this whole concept of baby steps, I don't know. I saw the movie when I was 12, 13 maybe. And that baby step concept to me was like, that was just, hey, start in a direction that you think is a solution and go. Move forward, move past it. And so it's funny that, you come full circle and you read a doctor who produces a great body of work in relentless solution focus and works with major league athletes and NFL players and NFL franchises. And he talks about this 30 seconds. Well, he talks about a minute, okay, the problem, it's a problem. It stinks. I hate it. It sucks. Mm-hmm. And then move on with it. But when I was 12, that baby steps, it just sunk in my brain that like, hey, you can just take a step in the right direction at any moment. And that all ties back to, Laws of Lifetime Growth, Dan Sullivan and Catherine Nomura, which is if you don't have that growth mindset, it's going to be hard to do some of that because misery loves company is a real expression. And so if people are miserable in what they're doing, then they're going to want to draw people down. So that natural negativity kind of is like, it's like infectious.
And I think disciplines grow on each other. When we talk about the habit stacking. So, the forming the simple but important habits. And I don't know who said it first, but master the art of showing up. And I mean, that's the whole thing with your 3-day-a-week workouts. You know what? The only thing you have to do at the moment you wake up is get to the gym.
Yep.
That is it.
And if I could tell you how easy that is for me, you would laugh at what it takes. But
anyway, but you get there and then, you got to bend over and put your hands on the bar. And then at some point you're going to do your first deadlift. So you say to yourself, you know what? I'm just going to do one and that'll be it. But then you do two.
Yeah. And then you keep moving.
Yeah.
Something just to kind of add in, going off that comment. I saw something on Instagram the other day, and there's this guy. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's won a bunch of championships. And they said, Mighty Mouse, what's the hardest belt to get? He said, it's the white belt. So very first belt. Just show up and get started.
Got it. And that's the truth of it. So we used to teach in when I was teaching young sales guys how to be successful in the insurance industry. We had the 8 basic habits. And start time was the first habit. Like me, and start time means a lot of things, but it means set the time, be there, and get rolling. Mm-hmm. Don't, because it's very easy to get into your email and get distracted. And I'll do that in a half hour. Or I'll push that. Instead of starting at 9, I'll start at 10. And when you define the start time and you follow through, the rest of it is money from there.
So in the book, to go back to Ryan Holiday's book, it's an interesting book and you'll enjoy it because each chapter is a story about somebody else who had a certain discipline in their life. And one of the chapters is the Queen of England. And you think about, she answered certain questions the same way. She had the discipline to answer the same way. And she did it for 70 years? 70 years in a position, 70 years. Think about that. You're like doing this for 7 minutes. But so that is discipline. Anything that you pick and you say, okay, I'm going to stick to doing that. And then we talk about building your company and what are your core beliefs? What are your core values? And the discipline to stick to your core values. I remember I was selling for Vans footwear at one point, the famous for checkerboard sneakers. And they said, we don't sell to chain stores. And I'm at a trade show. And this is time if you got a $5,000 order for sneakers that was good. A guy walked up to me. He was from Sears and handed me a purchase order for $500,000. And you know how fast a salesman can calculate the commission on that. You can do that pretty quick. I'm disciplined there. But, I was ready. I can't take this. And I realized I literally turned down a $500,000 order because now I did go to the boss and clarify, now you're serious. I can't take this. And they were serious. And that was their discipline. Their core value is they were selling through mom and pop stores and they wanted to develop the grassroots and it worked. But the disciplines within any, entrepreneurial business are specific to, what your goals are, where you're going and how you want to get there.
Well, and I think there's a big gap that we haven't discussed yet in discipline. And I know this for me, this is how I'm wired. Until the outcome that I desire takes over the laziness that prevents me from getting there, I won't do it. And then let me explain that differently, right? So the working out that I'm doing now, and I'm on 2.5 years, I think, of legitimate, consistent 3-day a week, never miss, never fail.
So that's your first baby step.
Yeah.
That's good.
Right. First baby step. Now I got hopefully 70 more years to go. Right. So the point I'll make is I didn't start it because I didn't value the other side of it. I didn't have a value in physical health. And it wasn't until it was presented to me in a way that mattered to me that I chose to take that first step. And at this particular point, it was my kids. I have 4 kids. They're in every sport known to man. I've got a beer belly hanging over. I'm preaching health and physical fitness and all this stuff. And then there I am, not being disciplined about it, not caring about my own physical fitness, being willing to stay up late, limit sleep, and be undisciplined. And when I started to care, then I found the discipline. I'll give you one more example, and this one is so stupid but real for me. So we had a coffee maker in our bedroom, right? Single K-cup. And I would get out of bed and I'd make a cup of coffee, and I'd get back in bed and I'd drink a cup of coffee. And it was very easy, right? And I liked the coffee. And then we got to a point where we were drinking more than one cup, and it was like, all right, well, this thing's not really a functional coffee deal, right? But I liked the convenience of it, but it wasn't enough coffee for my wife and I to enjoy. And so we bought a good old fashioned coffee brewing, makes 12 cups of coffee or whatever. And that couldn't go in the bedroom. I guess it could have, but that'd have been really, really just bad. So we got a little coffee bar down in the kitchen, and I wasn't very disciplined about making the coffee the night before. So now I'd get up, I'd be all groggy, and I'd have to wait 15 minutes for the thing to brew, and I'm already grumpy because it's early, and I didn't like that. What I realized is that if I spend the 5 minutes the night before cleaning everything out, brewing it, and setting the timer, I wake up to a fresh pot of coffee made. I can go down, I can have it, and I just enjoy that outcome far more than going down, cleaning it out, and setting and brewing, right? And while that sounds stupid, the reality is until the outcome was more favorable than just being lazy about it or whatever the issue that I didn't do it before, until I desired the outcome more, I didn't make the discipline. Now I don't go to bed unless coffee's made.
But yeah, so no, I totally agree. And I think relating it back to, a lot of our listeners are in the sports business. So in that realm, and a lot of people in the sports business came through as an athlete.
Yep.
Right. Agreed. And you and I both did that. All 3 of us have, come through athletics. And at certain time in your life, and it'll happen to you at some point, that's
Niall he's pointing to, not me.
Yeah, no. Your fitness level you will take for granted, and you see this in professional athletes all the time.
Yep.
In that first, 5 years after retirement, they all get that little bit of a beer belly, and they start, getting bigger and bigger and slower until they realize, you know what? I'm only 40 years old, and I got a long time to live. And you know what? You got to get in shape. And then you start doing it. And I went through this. I mean, I was a gymnast and in pretty good shape, had, low body fat content and all that stuff. And after a few years, and same as you get kids, and then all of a sudden you decide, okay, I got to get to the gym. And then you get serious about it. But I think, whether it's fitness or email or what, I think we all need wake-up calls. And
Yeah.
until you answer that wake-up call, you're not going to have the discipline to build a habit that will set you on the right path.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'll use another example in business, Steve, that I learned from you and your Head Start idea. That, and Steve used to tell me when we first met that he got up at 4:30 and was at the office by 5 or whatever, because he wasn't smart enough to compete with the guys that were intelligent, and so he needed a head start. Now we all know that's not true, but the reality is that discipline and that mentality is stuck, and you like the outcome of it, right? And so when I started working out, I was like, there's no way I'm getting up early. Like, we'll start at 8, guys. I'll agree to get out of bed at 7, get the kids rolling, and we'll start at 8. Well, that started to affect my start time at work. And we have an awful lot going on around here. And so now I'm getting to work at 10, 3 days a week. And, I'm Mr. Big Shot. I'm in charge. Like, I can do it. But then I didn't have the time to get done what I needed to get done. And so the desired outcome of all of this was I wanted to get in shape. I wanted to be able to be, the best coach and role model and model for my kids. But I also want to do that at business. So now I can't steal from business, do it. So what am I going to steal from? I'm going to steal from the thing that I love the most, which is the sleep in the morning. And so it's, again, a sequence of outcomes that I desired, that now I get up at 6 and do the workout instead of getting up at 7:30 and working out at 8, right?
Yeah. So my answer to everybody when they say, how do you do that? So, well, when I have to get up at 4:30, I feel like crap. I just feel like crap. But I sleep until 5:30. I get up, I feel the same way. I still feel like crap. So why not take that extra hour and, put it to something productive? So whether that's ridiculous or not, it probably is, but that's my mindset. And sometimes you have to play tricks on yourself to get yourself to create the discipline. But I think, and we'll probably run out of time, but we can dig into this deeper at another time. But how do you take those, we're talking about personal disciplines. How do we take those and apply them to business? So like how you run a meeting, or how you make a sales presentation, or how you do your marketing. I mean, I think the discipline, you told me about this before, you realized how many mailers you had to do to get so many people to a seminar, to get so many people to sign up for a test drive, whatever. So if that mailing has to be 500 pieces, then it has to be 500 pieces. That has to become a discipline, and that becomes a non-negotiable in your marketing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we cover a lot of territory, and we could certainly go on, but that's the podcast for today. I hope you guys learned something. Certainly check out some of the books. And if you liked what we talked about and you enjoy the podcast, please like, subscribe, and share.
Thanks, everyone. Make it a great week.
We appreciate your feedback. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a review. If not, we'd still love to hear from you so we can improve.